NBC Palm Springs. Breaking news.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gina Lamont. Thank you for joining us tonight.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. We begin with extreme heat across the entire West and an energy crisis here in California as the state's power grid hits its peak.
Yeah, that's what we're going to start with tonight. The extended extreme heat wave. Temperatures hovering in the 110s for the next week and a half, putting pressure on the energy supply across the state, causing temporary interruptions or rolling blackouts. Governor Gavin Newsom says he's taking action.
We are currently and urgently deploying resources across the spectrum, working to reduce our energy use. I signed an emergency proclamation that very specifically, very demonstrably, directly shifts energy consumption in this state. We're focused primarily on large energy users, and we are shifting to their backup power so they can utilize that power during the peak hours.
Yeah, and those peak hours are between 3 and 10 p.m. The California Independent System Operator, or CAISO, had this to say about the state's energy grid during a virtual news conference earlier today.
We have a perfect storm going on here. And usually when we have enough capacity in California, if you count what's in California and you count what we normally get in the region. What we have is a situation where the entire region is more than hot. It's extremely hot. And that is very much a contributing factor to this issue. We can't get the energy that we would normally get from out of state because it's being used to serve load natively. So that would probably account for another 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts and could very well have closed the gap.
Yeah, and we're learning California DMV offices are now shortening hours, closing at 3 p.m. through Wednesday to help conserve energy. And the Rancho Mirage Library and other city facilities will close early for the same reason. The extreme heat is dangerous, too. We want to warn you. We have a couple of images of burn patients we're about to show you. They are graphic, but they illustrate the dangers of the heat. Several people ended up at the hospital over the weekend with burns. Officials at Desert Regional Medical Center say several people have come in needing treatment for burns from searing streets and sidewalks.
The contact surfaces, especially if they're black or non-reflective, they can reach above 15-20 degrees above the environmental temperature. So you can have easily a surface of 140, 145 degrees. You only need 10 seconds of contact to develop partial thickness or full thickness third-degree burn.
Now, of course, if you have to go out as early as possible in the day to avoid the peak heat of the day. And let's turn things over now to Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett. He's got a look at the temperature outside and where things are headed right now with the heat. Mike.
Sarah, it's August in the desert. It's not an uncommon occurrence for us to break into this record-setting territory here in the Coachella Valley. But what's different about this heat wave is the ridge of high pressure that's set up over the southwest here is not only very strong, it's also very large. So we're talking about heat not only all the way up and down the state here, but we're tracking it all the way across the southwest up into Oregon, Nevada, Utah, pick a state. We're all running about 15 to 30 degrees above normal. We broke a lot of records on Sunday. We're going to talk about that coming up in the full forecast. I got a lot of numbers to show you, and of course rolling blackouts still possible. We'll talk about that in a moment. The big headline, in case you didn't see it on the interwebs today, lots of folks lighting up with 130 degrees at Death Valley, hottest temperature ever recorded in August on Earth. In fact, once this is verified, it's entirely possible that this could be the highest official recorded temperature anywhere ever. We'll break down into some of that coming up as well. Now, rolling blackouts, Sarah and I were telling you about this late on Friday night. We're going to hit this again because this is important to know. We always have a plan in place for earthquakes here, especially in the summertime when we could potentially lose electricity because of that. Well, with rolling blackouts, if you experience electricity loss while it's very hot out there, it's important to have a plan in place. Of course, water, 1 gallon per person per day, keeping at least a half a tank of gas in your car because that could be your only source of air conditioning if you lose power. What they say there in an extreme case is if you go out and you start up your car for about 10 minutes every hour just to regulate yourself and get some air conditioning, that's a good way to keep yourself healthy if you lose power. And then make a little bit of extra ice. If you have some ice cube trays sitting around, why not fill fill them up and put them into the freezer there just so you have them sitting around so that you've got that when you need it. Limit daytime electricity usage. The big thing there is your washing machine, your dryer, and your dishwasher. If at all possible, run those overnight or just put it off for a couple days if you can. We just saw the governor talking about that. We need every single kilowatt we can get right now. And another thing that's really important is be aware of where your cooling centers are here in the Coachella Valley. We have several across the region. We put a post up on our Facebook page that gives you a link to where all those are located. So in case you ever needed one in an extreme situation, they're easy to find. You already know where they are. Take a look at severe weather right now. We have an excessive heat warning. That's this massive purple area. And again, what I was trying to explain earlier, this is not just a Coachella Valley thing. This is not a Southern California thing. You're seeing that all the way up the state into Northern California and parts of Oregon as well, and then stretching out towards obviously Nevada and into Arizona. This has now been extended out through Thursday. Remember, this went into place on Friday, so this is a long, prolonged heat event. Putting it into context today, 113 degrees at Palm Springs International actually seems kind of refreshing compared to some of the numbers we've seen over the weekend. 106 is the 30-year average for this time of year, and the record for today's date at Palm Springs International is 118. The problem that we're having is with increased humidity, we're not cooling at night, so we're seeing those overnight temperatures breaking records as well. 78 is the 30-year norm for this time of year. We only cooled to 90 overnight. Taking a look outside right now, 113 is where we are currently. Light breeze coming in from the east-southeast. We've got some of that monsoonal flow coming in, so it's increasing the humidity. Look at 21% out there. That's also firing some storms off in the mountains. You may have noticed some of those cumulus clouds bunching up over the San Bernardinos earlier today. Doesn't look like it's going to be an issue today, but tomorrow we will have increased monsoonal moisture, and that could fire off some storms that will bring some gusty winds and the possibility of dry lightning to the mountains. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air show very little comfort on the horizon. Temperatures will stay above 115 for the first half of the week. We'll see those numbers weaken slightly, but it looks like this is going to be a long-term heat event. Details on that and some really impressive numbers related to records coming up.
Now an update on some of the fires burning in Southern California. The Dome Fire in San Bernardino County broke out last night in the Mojave National Preserve and has burned more than 40,000 acres.
The Ranch 2 fire in Los Angeles has burned 2,200 acres so far, 7% contained tonight. Police are looking for 36-year-old Palencia Osmond. Investigators say he intentionally started the fire. Police do warn that he could be violent, but this is who they're looking for. The Apple Fire in Cherry Valley, expected to be fully contained today, is. It started back on July 31st, burning 33,000 acres, a cost of $51.8 million to fight this fire. It's the largest in the region in more than a decade.
Congressman Raul Ruiz is heading back to Washington, having been called back by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for a Saturday vote on a funding bill for the Postal Service. The USPS has become a major component in the presidential election, and now, amid growing criticism, the White House says no mail sorting machines will be taken offline before the election. No mailboxes will be removed either. Olivia Sandusky is live in La Quinta with more on these new developments for us on this Monday. Olivia.
Sarah, this topic remaining a big conversation out here between our local candidates and our representatives. And as Congressman Ruiz plans to be a part of that House vote, he tells me this is something that will play an instrumental role in our upcoming election.
We're going to run it well, and we're going to not lose so much money.
President Trump assures the country the United States Postal Service is running well. But the American Postal Workers Union expresses their own concerns as the agency reports billions in losses.
Our current administration, president, and new PMG are attacking us and trying to take away everything that we have worked hard for.
This isn't a political issue, you know. If we don't fund the Postal Service, you're going to have a lot of people out of jobs.
Speaker Pelosi has called the House to vote Saturday on the Delivering for America Act, which could prevent the Postal Service from making any changes to operations that were in place at the beginning of the year. Congressman Ruiz will take part in that vote. He believes it's crucial for communities and a safe and fair election.
It's caused damage to seniors, veterans, small businesses, and workers who rely on the mail. The president clearly states that he wants to prohibit people from voting safely. Instead, he wants to force them to take the risks and go out in public during a pandemic.
But not all local leaders agree. State Assembly candidate America Figueroa says voters should be able to choose the option they're most comfortable with and believes the issue is becoming too political.
There are instances where there is fraud or people that decide, from the postal office to not take certain ballots into the office. And I know, even though this is a political issue, but don't try to bring your party or your position up using this issue, because that's not what the people needs right now.
And following this vote, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy will testify before the House Oversight Committee that's set to take place on August 24th. Reporting live in La Quinta, Olivia Sandusky, NBC Palm Springs.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
All right, here's a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers for Riverside County and the Coachella Valley. But remember, this is Monday, so it's a 3-day total because the county is no longer reporting numbers on the weekend. So with that, that's 1,800 new cases reported in the county, nearly 1,000 from here in the Coachella Valley, 31 new deaths in the county, 6 from the desert.
Now to You Ask, We Investigate report. A mother of 4 in Desert Hot Springs is taking legal action after video captured her landlord hopping a fence and allegedly disconnecting her air conditioning. That day, there was excessive heat. Marty Tona Everett explains what happened and the protections tenants do and don't have when it comes to landlords.
By the grace of God, we caught this video, and there he was on the video, just hopping over.
Teresa Washington says the man in this video is Chris Dennis, her landlord.
I have 4 kids that live in this house. He took the disconnect out of our air conditioning unit so that our air conditioner would stop working.
When Teresa's house started getting hot, she started getting suspicious. Multiple air technicians told her the disconnect was missing, a part which makes the AC run. When she looked back at her camera, she says she was shocked to see her own landlord with what appears to be the disconnect in his hand.
It's been a nightmare.
NBC Palm Springs reached out to the landlord. His wife explained the situation, saying he wasn't trespassing, that Teresa knew they were doing repairs and wanted them, and that they've had continuous problems with her. They declined to do a recorded interview. The day after Teresa posted the video on her Facebook, she says she received a 3-day notice from Chris, along with messages asking for a rent payment. But she stopped paying her rent when she knew a foreclosure could be coming soon.
I got this nice little letter from the bank giving us, it's a notice of foreclosure sale, kind of giving me my tenants' rights and how to move forward. From that, I stopped paying the rent.
Teresa says she's always been a good tenant, nothing to make the landlord take this type of action. So now she's the one taking the action, legal action.
I'm not okay with it. I'll never be okay with it. So with that being said, we are moving forward in the court of law now to pursue justice.
In your eyes, does this tenant have the grounds to pursue a lawsuit?
Yeah, she can sue the landlord for trespass. There are only certain grounds under which a landlord can come onto the property under Civil Code 1954.
Ken Carlson says he's been inundated with calls from tenants about landlords taking desperate measures.
We've seen landlords using restraining orders to have a judge evict a tenant without any hearing. I think we'll see other efforts by landlords as the tsunami of evictions hits starting September 2nd.
There are more laws protecting landlords' rights than there are tenants' rights.
Daytona Everett, NBC Palm Springs.
And a reminder, if you have a story or problem you'd like us to look into, email us at news@nbcpalmsprings.com. You ask, we investigate. Well, still ahead, a march on Washington that's launching from the Palm Springs Air Museum. We'll tell you about that and much more. You're watching NBC Palm Springs. Stick around.
We first told you about Chauncey Spencer back in June. He's a Palm Desert man building a mobile museum about African Americans in aviation. Well, that museum is now complete, and as Kitty Alvarado shows us, now the real journey begins.
It's a big day for Chauncey Spencer.
If I was any more excited, I'd have a heart attack in a happy way.
A day he dreamed about years ago is finally here. The launch of his African Americans in Aviation Travel Museum.
Today, we're going to be on our way across more than 18 states, 25 cities, and we're going to do 7,000 miles.
Their destination, the March on Washington, with stops along the way in major cities to educate young people about a part of the American story that's rarely told.
There's a piece of American history that's been left out.
Making that journey with him will be 22-year-old Tori Hilbert from Long Beach, an intern with the National College Resources Foundation, or NCRF, a nonprofit working to bring equity in education. He hopes, like him, young people are able to see the possibilities through this history.
At least I have a better understanding from where I come from, because it's not normal to talk about airplanes. It's not normal to talk about African American pilots. And so since I have that understanding, how I feel, my energy towards it will be different.
The museum built inside this travel trailer tells the story of the African American pioneer pilots who found a way to make their dreams of flight possible during a time when they were told the color of their skin disqualified them from even trying. Among them, Chauncey Spencer's father. Chauncey Spencer Sr. tried to get flying lessons at 16. The response?
We don't teach color to fly. They don't have the intelligence. It hurt my father, but it didn't stop his dream.
Spencer defied the odds and helped get African Americans into the Civil Pilots Training Program that produced the legendary Tuskegee Airmen. Dr. Teresa Price, founder and CEO of the NCRF, says her organization sponsored this project to help future generations sprout wings.
This is to inspire everyone that never thought they could fly high, because all things are possible.
Kitty Alvarado, NBC Palm Springs.
Taking a live look now at our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam in Rancho Mirage. Mike has a look at the forecast. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Well, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think this image adequately captures what a day it is across Southern California. Not only is it hot out there, it's also humid as well. We saw some of those cumulus clouds popping up over the San Bernardinos earlier today. They're winding down, but there is more storm potential on Tuesday. It's just one of the many things that we're going to talk about. But today's big headline remains that 130-degree temperature recorded yesterday in Death Valley. Now, there's a little bit of science jockeying that's going to take place here. It has to be verified, first of all, by the National Weather Service before we take this as gospel. And this has been something that has happened before. In case you're wondering, it is a contender for the hottest temperature ever recorded on planet Earth. Now, back in July of 1913, there was a 131.4 that was also recorded at Furnace Creek Ranch, aptly named in Death Valley there. There was also another one in Tunisia, 131 back in July of 1931. Both of these are disputed. This one here, there was a dust storm taking place at the time, and some scientists have come along and said, okay, you know what, the sand superconducted your elements. We can't count that one. I'm not sure what the dispute is with the one in Tunisia, but still pretty hot. So if that doesn't go, if it doesn't stand, then the highest recorded undisputed ones were 29.2 in both Death Valley and in Kuwait. So we're waiting to see if we just recorded the highest temperature of all time. Now, in case you're wondering, hottest ever in Palm Springs, 123. We've done it 4 times going back to 1995, and the hottest ever for the Coachella Valley, of course, is thermal. Most recently, 1990, we got up to 126 degrees. In fact, we've done that twice, and we've even hit 124 and 125 as well. So 130, very significant number. This is my favorite number today, though. This is the countdown to the autumnal equinox. We are 36 days away from the beginning of fall. Doesn't necessarily mean that we automatically cool down, but at least it gives us something to look forward to, and the days get shorter. On top of that, we are tracking some monsoonal moisture. In fact, you can see high pressure always has clockwise flow around it. So you can see that flow very clearly moving right on top of us. Well, it's also pulling up some of that monsoonal moisture as well. So you notice the humidity is elevated in a big kind of way. It also brought some cumulus over the mountains today. Here's what it looks like as we go through the rest of the evening. We are tracking everything quieting down there. There is a storm that will move in from Arizona later tonight. They could pick up some gusty winds. I'm keeping an eye on that. I'll tell you more about that coming up at 6. Tuesday, it looks like we'll see those storms start to fire off in the San Bernardinos and then along the Santa Rosas as well. Could fire off some dry lightning and some gusty winds there as well. It's something we're going to have to monitor very closely. Oh, did I mention that there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere? Dew points are going to run about 65 tomorrow. That makes our minimum relative humidity about 25%. These are truly the dog days of summer. 109 right now in Desert Hot Springs, 114 in Coachella, 100 on the money in the Yucca Valley, and 82 in Big Bear. Wind has stubbornly refused to make that switch around to the northwest. Will late tonight. We start off warm tomorrow. We get hot in the afternoon. 116 will be the big number here in the Coachella Valley, 107 in Joshua Tree, and 84 in Big Bear. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows very little reprieve. By the time we get to Saturday, we'll dip down to 111, but it looks like we're going to stay above 110, possibly through the end of August.
Some breaking news. We're taking a look at a fire burning in Northern California. This one is called the Hennessy Fire. It's burning in Napa County, very close to some homes. So some people have been pulled from their homes. Homes evacuated there in Napa County, burning at 2,500 acres, 0% containment.
All right, we just got word from Cal ISO that we are in a stage 2 emergencies and that rolling blackouts could begin at 6 o'clock. Some desert cities are affected. We'll see you then.